Well, turning now to Washington, the House and the Senate will meet today in a joint session of Congress. Of course, they will be certifying the results of the 2024 presidential election. In one of her final official acts as vice president, Kamala Harris will preside over the certification of President-elect Trump's win and her own loss.
Yeah, security is also tight despite no indications that we will see scenes reminiscent of the events of 4 years ago when rioters stormed the Capitol building in an attempt to block the certification of the election results. Nearly 1,600 people have faced federal charges for their role in that riot. And overnight, federal prosecutors announced they are considering charging as many as 200 more people for their involvement.
Since the release of new video that was omitted during the initial investigation, that new video released during the report that was issued by congressional leaders, and now questions surrounding the integrity of that investigation, newly re-elected House Speaker Mike Johnson is indicating his concerns are more on the weather and less on a potential repeat of 4 years ago. Listen.
Well, I hope we have full attendance. We got a big snowstorm coming to D.C., and we encourage all of our colleagues, do not leave town, stay here, because, as you know, the Electoral Count Act requires this on January 6th at 1 p.m. So whether we're in a blizzard or not, we are going to be in that chamber making sure this is done.
Well, there you go. Let's bring in our political panel, Democratic strategist and former Obama staffer Dominique James, an investigative columnist at the Daily Signal, and radio host Tony Kinnett. Thank you both for joining us. As we just heard right there, they're going to be acting as if they're the U.S. Postal Office, right? Rain, snow, sleet, snow, whatever. Security has been heightened around the Capitol building, and by all indications, things will run smoothly today. But to both of you, is there a possibility we will see a repeat of 4 years ago? Dominique, we'll start with you.
Good morning. I think it's pretty fitting that there's a snowstorm and a cold front hitting D.C. today because it truly is a somber day. January 6th, the day our nation's capital was attacked, 5 people died, 140 officers injured. With that said, I do expect today to be relatively uneventful. I'm actually more concerned about the J6 rally and celebration rallies occurring later on, closer to the inauguration that the Trump administration's hosting. But I think both parties have learned their lessons. Again, there's death that we shouldn't forget, and I do think our members of Congress will do their duty.
All right, Tony.
Just in response on the 5 people died remark, as NPR reported quite clearly, some of those deaths were from things like natural causes, had nothing to do with the events at the Capitol building. So just making sure that we're keeping the facts on the table. No, there's nothing that's going to happen today other than maybe somebody not bundling up warmly enough. It's unfortunate that we do have individuals that are trying to make this some type of national instance of mourning rather than just a ugly riot a couple of years ago that ended up failing on its face because there were a lot of clowns at the circus. No, I think that the confirmation of the votes today should be business as usual in how the United States should operate.
You know, this is one of Kamala Harris's last official acts as vice president, as we mentioned. Dominique, how do you think she is approaching today, knowing that it is essentially adding a little bit of insult, some would say, to injury regarding her loss in November?
I'm sure there are a ton of emotions going through Vice President Kamala Harris today, but at the end of the day, she's a professional and she's a public servant. So, I'll count on her to do what's necessary to get through the day to certify the election results because that's what's important for democracy and that's what's important to America. We should also not forget that Vice President Kamala Harris is a history maker and trailblazer in her own right. What she did in her campaign accomplished in 107 days is nothing short of remarkable. So we'll get through today. We'll certify the election results. And more importantly, as a country, we'll figure out how to move forward.
And Tony, aside from the certification today, House Speaker Johnson is determined to push President-elect Trump's agenda forward initially when it comes to the reconciliation bill, saying he believes Trump will prefer one big bill as opposed to multiple. Do you believe Republicans can get this done? Because we spoke to you the day of his reelection and how Trump sort of had to do some horse trading and wrangling behind the scenes to get 2 of those congressmen on board.
My wife gave me a hard time about you and I going back and forth on the day of Speaker Johnson's election because things were breaking so quickly. So I'll try to be a little bit more articulate this time. I think that is the question. We're looking forward now to this new administration. It makes sense that Trump wants one bill because he has a lot of stuff on his plate, from executive orders to preparing his nominations for the nomination confirmation process, not to mention just the economy as well as immigration and international policy there is to get to. Will Republicans get this done? I'm fairly confident about things like tax law and about the reconciliation as far as things from the looking at the debt ceiling coming ahead in a couple of years, all the way to how we manage overall financial burdens of the taxpayer. There's a good chance this is going to get done. I think that interim period in December and early January is one of those awkward times in Congress where there is a lot of disjointed action. But with Trump actually ready here to work in D.C., I think now we're going to see perhaps a little bit more cohesion than we might have seen previously.
All right. Well, all eyes on Capitol Hill today. We will continue to watch it. Dominique James, Tony Kinnett, thank you both so much for joining us this morning. Good to see you both.
Thanks, guys. Stay warm.
Happy New Year.
Subscribe to get the news the legacy media won't tell you and only the Daily Signal can bring to you.